past 2 decades, we've seen a wave of innovation, policy shifts, and ecosystem level efforts, right, aimed at solving this challenge, from mobile money to digital identity systems. If you may, there have been no shortage of ambition or annotation around what it takes to unlock inclusive growth, right, in Africa or in the world in general. So from there, now we are like entering a new phase, right? If you may, in some ways, we are already in this phase. The adoption of AI across financial services, fintechs, and if you may, adjacent sectors are accelerating at a really, really fast rate. And with it comes an entirely new set of opportunities and risks. We talked a lot about opportunities, but we don't see the risks that come with it, right? Hence, we're gonna dive deep into it in this session today. So, if you may, this space of innovation is exciting with the adoption of AI, but it also makes standardization and modern regulation not just important, but essential, right? As we modernize regulation, regulatory compliance becomes a strategic lever, not just a box to tick. For innovators, founders, and financial operators, a strong understanding of compliance is crucial, not only to manage risk, but also to scale responsibly and unlock new growth opportunities. And that brings us to today's discussion, the role of regulatory compliance and risk mitigation in business growth. Again, I'll go ahead and say it. We are fortunate to be joined by two domain experts who live and literally breathe this space, right? We have Ololade and Timothy. We are glad to have you here. I'll give you the floor and let you guys introduce yourselves before we go on and dive deep into the main subject of today's session. Okay, you can go ahead, Ololade or Timothy. One of you can start.
I'll go first. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Ololade Osibanjo. I'm the Legal and Compliance Manager at Klasha, and I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Thank
Hello,
you.
Everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Timothy Makubumba. I head compliance for the African jurisdiction at Waza, and I'm glad to lend my voice to the discussion.
Perfect. Again, thank you for accepting our invitation, and thanks for being here. We're looking forward to diving deep into the main subject now. With that, we're gonna start with your backgrounds a little bit, questions related to your backgrounds. Then we're gonna go through understanding compliance and growth enablers, right? We'll dive deep into regulatory challenges and market expansion, right? And then we'll go through risk mitigation through compliance and the future of compliance in fintechs, okay? And then we'll let the people present in the call ask questions at the end, okay? So starting with your backgrounds, Ololade, obviously, let's go with you first. You come from us with a great background, right? With you being a lawyer, right, and a lot of experience there. How does your legal background help you navigate compliance challenges in this fintech industry?
Okay, thanks, Hamid. I tell everyone that I stumbled on compliance. Compliance wasn't something I came out of university or even, thought of when I started practice. So I started my career in a law firm, in a traditional legal firm. So I set out as a lawyer, and I've had, a legal experience and everything. But my compliance journey started when I went in-house. So I left the law firm after a few years of practice, and I decided I wanted to go in-house. So I started working in a tech company. It was a software solutions company. And this company happened to build a fantastic product that ended up becoming a thing. Like it went into market, became a full-fledged financial product in the market, got a CBN license and all of that. And that was how my compliance journey started. So my legal background was able to help me navigate compliance in the sense that most of the things I did traditionally as a law firm was just kind of, how do I say it? It was brought to light. It was brought to bear. Like it was the forefront of what I was doing. So interpreting like legal frameworks, regulations, statutes, and all of that became what I was now doing day to day. And then translating that to the laymen meaning my team members who were not lawyers and didn't have the legal expertise to translate the legal jargons, as people will call it, into day-to-day tasks. So I'll say my legal background has definitely helped in this journey, understanding legal framework, understanding legal risk management, because at the end of the day, as a lawyer, what you're trying to do is to avoid risks. That translates directly to compliance. As a compliant officer, as a compliant manager, as a compliance analyst or whatever, what you're trying to do on a day-to-day basis is to avert risk. And in averting risk, you have to be able to identify the risk. You need to be able to assess the risk, then before you can actually mitigate the risk, right? So that's also one of the things that my legal background has, helped me do. Also, I'll say communication. As a lawyer, you're constantly communicating, whether it's, you're talking, whether you're writing an opinion, whether you're writing an email, whatever it is you're writing, and that translates directly to what a compliance manager will do on a day-to-day basis. You're constantly communicating, you're collaborating with team members, you're talking to product team, you're talking to, finance team. So you need to have clear-cut communication and to be as should not be loaded, because lawyers tend to load their conversation. So you need to be able to have simple, direct conversation that your counterparty can actually understand. And then I'll say lastly, one of the things my legal background has helped me navigate in my compliance role is regulatory audits and investigations. So I'm very skilled as a lawyer. You're constantly, liaising with regulators, you're talking to auditors, and that's also translates directly to what I do on a day-to-day basis as a compliance manager. So yeah, I'll say those are like the key areas that I'll say my legal background has helped me navigate as a compliance manager.
Definitely. Great skills, obviously. It says it all, right? The thorough understanding of the law, right? With streamlined communication, because you taking it literally, you taking your domain expertise, you understanding it first, and you making it, you conveying the information to other people that are not from the domain. So
Yeah.
great skill, obviously, and definitely will keep helping you grow in this domain. Now, Timothy, obviously, you too, you have a great background in crypto and the financial services, right? How does that help you overcome the challenges of the day-to-day compliance risk issues that we face, right?
Yeah, thank you. Compliance landscape in fintech and crypto and financial services is constantly evolving. So one thing that helped me is my background in consulting. I started my career in KPMG, so that gave me exposure into the workings of the financial services industry. Worked with a lot of established traditional financial services providers, and working with them, I was able to understand both from the regulatory point of view and also from the practitioner point of view what is needed in order to navigate regulatory challenges. And one of the major issues, especially in emerging field like crypto, is regulatory uncertainty. As you know, most regulators are still yet to understand what crypto is all about. But having the background understanding of the underlying principle, which applies to traditional financial institution as well. You want to ensure that you don't provide services to illicit actors, those who are on sanctioned watch list or jurisdictions that have been prohibited. So those basic principles help you to formulate the controls that you need in order to ensure that, yes, your KYC onboarding system is up to date, and also you put in controls that would help you to navigate those challenges very well. And one thing that has helped in addressing that is also incorporating technology. We have a lot of solutions that help you to speed up onboarding process, ensure that you verify information you are getting from your customers, and by so doing, it helps you to be on the good books with regulators when they come knocking, and also helps you to mitigate or manage the risk that comes from that aspect as well. Generally, in the industry, there are a lot of challenges that these businesses face. I mentioned one, regulatory uncertainty. The other one is financial crime risk. As we know, crypto firms, fintech platforms are attractive targets for money launderers, fraudsters, and cyber criminals because of the digital nature of the services that they provide. So with real-time payments, peer-to-peer transfers, and crypto transactions, it has enabled criminals to move money faster than ever before compared to the traditional banking system. So it's very critical that as a fintech, as a crypto business, you have robust AML and CFT measures in place, and also fraud detection system, like I mentioned earlier, technology-enabled ones that would detect these activities, these behaviors, these anomalies in real time, and you'll be able to put a stop, nip it in the bud before they would be able to make use of your solution for illicit activities. So it's very important that as a business, you incorporate technology and also understand the risk that is prevalent in the sector that you operate, and plan accordingly.
Definitely, great. First of all, a background in consulting. Obviously, you get to learn a lot, work with different actors, stakeholders, right? Have a thorough understanding of the problem itself, right? And again, you touched a very important subject there, like regulators not knowing much about crypto, and it's like they can put regulations related to it. Right. For me, there is an education gap there for experts like you that have a thorough understanding of that industry, of the blockchain industry. It's like a help educate everybody first of all, right? So we get used to the technology itself, and also convey the message more out there to regulators, collaborate with them, help them understand in order for them to put the right regulations in place. And lastly, you talked about technology. Obviously, I, I started by saying there has been a lot of innovation the last 2 decades. And again, the next 10, 15 years, 20 years will be even more astonishing in many ways. We are only scratching, we are in the beginning. So we're only going to keep innovating. So the adoption of technology, of the state of the art will help us mitigate a lot of the issues here that we face, challenges that we're facing. Now, going back on our friend Ololade, I wanna ask now, how does your background help you navigate the challenges that you face in your day-to-day activities at Klasha, right? And how do you mitigate that?
I think this already ties into how my legal background helps me with my role. Some of the day-to-day challenges I face at my job is explaining to people explaining to the team members what exactly I need from them. So I've interpreted a complex, regulation, and I want to tell my colleagues, we need to operationalize this. How then do we do it? I think that's always been one of the challenges. Just getting people to actually understand your point of view, where you're coming from. Getting people to understand that compliance is not just your business, it's our business. Also just generally just navigating the day-to-day. I think the key thing for me will be operationalizing compliance. Compliance goes, I feel like it goes over people's heads. Once they just hear compliance, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do, So just helping them understand it, that it's not this thing that is just an idea. It's something that we have to do together. Yeah, I think that I'll say that's one of the main challenges.
Yes. That's great. I like that. I mean, for me, it all comes back to the word itself. We chose compliance for it, So like when you hear it, you're putting people in a straight line at first, right? That's what people are thinking. It's like, okay, I said it in the last AMA. It's like, okay, we think in police officers right away, right? It's funny, but yeah. Educating people in the domain is extremely important, right? Obviously, so like they understand you guys are here to help, to put the policies, put the tools to help mitigate the day-to-day risk that the business could possibly face, right? So like it's here to help, right? Literally.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, thank you for emphasizing that. Now I'll move on towards growth as a growth enabler, right? Compliance as a growth enabler. For you, for both of you, right? What are the biggest misconceptions about compliance when it comes to scaling the business?
Oh, do you want me to take it, Mark, or would you?
You can go ahead. I'll come in after.
Okay. There are a lot of misconceptions, a whole lot. One of the ones that I've heard over and over again is the fact that compliance is expensive. Is it really expensive when you do a cost-benefit analysis? I don't think so. In the long run, when you think about compliance and the myriad of benefits that comes with, following the straight and narrow path. And then, of course, when you do the cost-benefit analysis, I will not say compliance is expensive, because not only does it let you grow your business, it also instills investor confidence, stakeholder confidence, So there's a lot of benefit to it, and people only are thinking about the finance, the money aspect of it, when your business is benefiting a whole lot in other areas. Another compliance misconception I would say is the fact that people think compliance is just the work of the compliance department. It's not. It's not the work of the compliance. It's the whole workforce. It's everybody. It's finance. It's HR. It's IT. It's engineering. It's everybody's responsibility to operationalize and to do compliance. Another misconception I'll say is the fact that some people think compliance is just a box ticking exercise. Oh, we have to do this. Check. We have to do this. Check. We have to do this. It's so far from it. Like, it's if you know compliance and if you do compliance on a day-to-day, you will know that you're not just ticking boxes. You're actually it's ongoing. It's the monitoring. It's the check-in. It's the audits. It's the reassessment. It's the assessment. It's a whole lot, and so it's not just a box ticking exercise. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at those three misconceptions, and let Mark help us with the rest.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Continuing from where she stopped. Also, one of the misconceptions that I've come across is many think that compliance is only necessary for large companies, large organizations. So, if you're a small startup just starting out, you don't need compliance.
Mm,
That's a very dangerous mindset because regulatory scrutiny can happen at any point in time. You can get the attention of regulators at any stage in your growth process. So any fintech or any business that isn't prepared for compliance, that does not have a good compliance process in place, you would have major setbacks. And this could be license rejection when you apply for a license. You could be losing banking partners or regulatory fines, as the case may be, or even not getting an investment when you need extra funding to scale your process and grow. So it's very important that you don't just look at compliance for, oh, it's only the big guys that need compliance. And one thing is you don't need to have your compliance team doesn't need to be that large, or even you don't even need to have like a full-time staff doing compliance, but you need someone who is knowledgeable enough, who is an expert in that field to be able to provide guided advisory on how you should go about your compliance process. So that's one misconception that most businesses, startups especially, face. Then the other one is that compliance is there to stifle growth or slow down growth. In reality, the opposite is the case. Compliance help companies expand faster because it removes the barrier to entering into new markets. It removes the barrier in forming strategic partnership and securing funding. So when you have a good compliance process in place, you would say that it is a strategic advantage and a competitive advantage to you instead of slowing things down. Because once you have a compliance person who understands that you are there to provide support to the business in order for it to grow and scale, ensuring that it is protected and ensuring that everything is done according to regulations, then you see that compliance is not there to stifle growth, but to make it grow.
Definitely, definitely. So, you guys nailed it. I think there is a news Arthur. I don't know. He says I don't know of this other another compliance misconception that compliance is only by people with legal and financial background. Obviously, I don't, I know Lolade comes from that legal background. Obviously, it helps as we saw. It helps her navigate in the day-to-day stuff. But having spoken to a lot of chief compliance officers, I came to realize that a lot of these guys are not always from the legal side of things. You know, they just grow to become chief compliance officers by learning some of these day-to-day stuff, right? But yeah, coming back to our subject here, you two nailed the misconceptions. And talking about the misconceptions, you also brought in some of the benefits actually of compliance, right? So like it's not seen as just misconceptions, but yeah, see it as a benefit, right? And with that, it takes me literally to my next question here, right? You talked about like how this can be an advantage for startups, for companies, enterprise level companies, right? So could you give us some examples of companies that literally have used compliance as a strategic advantage to grow fast, right?
Yeah, I mean, we see them, we use them on a day-to-day basis. I think for me, I would say any company, any fintech, or let me not say fintech, any money payment service company, financial institution that has been able to survive for a very long time, because they come and crash. A lot of them come and crash, as we've seen. But anyone that you've seen that's stood the test of time, that is still here. Let's think about a PayPal. Think about a Stripe. Think about when you just think about any of those big names that they've been in existence for a while. You should understand that they are doing something right. PayPal is an example. PayPal keeps evolving. There's no time you go on the PayPal website, even just sometimes I just randomly go on this website just to read their terms and just to see what they're doing, have a feel. You see that they are constantly updating, whether it's their privacy policy, whether you see the last time it was updated was maybe a month ago or 2 months ago. You can tell they're on top of their business. So so I'll just say Stripe, I'll say PayPal. Those are two big business. And then bringing it home in Nigeria, there's a new guy in town. Money Point is doing a fantastic job with their compliance effort. I saw recently an ad that there was a vacancy for a compliance business partner, and immediately for me it just meant they were serious about compliance, because they're not looking for a compliance manager. They're looking for a compliance business partner, someone who is going to partner with their product team at the start, from the very beginning. So yeah, I'll say Money Point is also doing an amazing job with their compliance effort. So yeah,
Definitely. Those are great examples. Timothy, you wanna go to?
Yeah, for me, one of the businesses that stands out for me when it comes to making compliance to become a competitive advantage is Revolut, the UK neobank. So one of the things they've done is they're one of the first fintechs to implement AI-driven transaction monitoring and real-time AML screening. And if you follow their history, you'll see they've been able to secure multiple banking license, and that wouldn't have been possible if they've not made early compliance investment. So those investments they've made has paid off, and it has enabled their global expansion, and even also broadening their product offering as well, going from the traditional banking, even offering crypto and the like. So it means they are doing a good thing, and for them to start from UK, which is a highly regulated, which has a very strong regulatory framework in place and a very tight regulator that basically nothing skips their eyes. So it means they are doing an incredible job in that regard. Then another one I would like to point out in the US is Coinbase. It's a crypto firm. They differentiated themselves from the competitors by adhering strictly to the regulatory framework by the regulators in the US. Like I mentioned earlier, crypto regulation globally is somewhat ambiguous, but for them to be able to manage that ambiguity, gain institutional investor trust, and eventually become a publicly traded company, it means that they gave a huge attention to compliance, and eventually became a driver for their market credibility.
Definitely. Thank you for nailing that, both of you, and actually giving us great examples, obviously. And again, the adoption of AI in some of the companies here. Well, we have PayPal from Timothy, from Ololade, sorry. PayPal, Stripe, obviously, MoneyPoint, bringing it home. I like that. Coinbase, big time. You cannot get that big without having taken it into consideration, and basically it's in some ways your defense team, right? You cannot score goals. You can score 10 goals, right? If you get scored on 11 goals, you still lose the game. It's very simple. Compliance and security are literally your defense team. So you don't have it, you will lose, definitely, and you don't get big if it's not taken care of. Okay. Now I want to move on towards market expansion using the strategy of compliance, right? So for you guys, what are the key regulatory hurdles businesses face when expanding across Africa specifically?
Oh, wow. A lot.
Mm.
I think I'll say Africa is the regulatory landscape is so fragmented that it just causes a lot of headache for fintechs. I'll just put it that way. It causes it because when you think about it, fintechs are operating, across this African borders, and when they have every country has different regulation, it becomes such a compliance nightmare when you think about it. So I want to operate in 10, 15, 20 African countries, and you are telling me that I need to adhere to 10, 15, 20 different regulations. When you compare it to our Western counterparts, the US, the UK, the European, they have like European, say for example, the privacy laws, they have their GDPR and all of that. Here in Africa, Nigeria has their own data protection laws. Kenya has its own data protection laws. Like it's so fragmented. And the thing is, most of them are saying pretty much the same thing, but they have different there are different ways and different nuances of saying it. So you're stuck with not only having to understand what they are trying to, the why of this regulation, you're also stuck with complying with, I don't know how to explain it, the minute differences across, this country. So yeah, I'll say the fragmented regulations across, so not only the privacy laws, we're talking about KYC regulation, we're talking about anti-money laundering regulation. So each country has different AML regulation. So I think it's just yeah, different regulatory hurdles across Africa. Yeah,
Definitely fragmented, big time. There is a lot of work to be done there. Timothy, do you have something to add there?
Yes. So another challenge that most fintechs that are trying to scale across Africa experience is stringent licensing and capital requirements. So many African regulators require fintechs to partner with local banks or licensed financial institutions before they are operational. So if you can't secure that partnership, it becomes a challenge. Say, for example, a case in point is Kenya. Going into Kenya to do business as a foreign fintech is Herculean. It's not easy. You'd have to jump through many hoops before you can even set up shop there. So that's a huge challenge. And for some markets, they demand high minimum capital requirements, which can be a barrier of entry for startups. Startups have very lean resources and trying to keep things small and scale gradually. So for some of these countries, the capital requirements are ridiculously high. So it creates a barrier of entry. For example, South Africa requires a different capital licensing requirement for financial services. And on the other hand, in Egypt, they have a regulatory sandbox that allow you to test before you get full licensing. So this disparity makes it difficult to operate across board with the same requirements. Then you also have the evolving AML and KYC standards. I know Ololade alluded to this, but I would like to look at it from a different perspective. So many regulators now are, due to the pressure from the FATF, they are beginning to tighten their AML and CFT control. So it makes it more difficult for fintechs who don't have physical location to actually operate in those countries. For example, in some countries like Uganda and Ghana, in some cases, depending on the service you are offering, you need an in-person verification. And this conflicts with most startups who are fully digital, that make use of full digital onboarding model. So that can become a challenge to scale in this country. And some other ones include restrictions on cross-border payments and FX control. So when you put all these factors together, you can see it can become really difficult to scale across African markets.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of challenges, and one of the biggest ones you both talked about it is the fragmented regulations, right? You have 52 countries with different regulations, right? You cannot scale fast. You cannot move from one country to another without having a different license, and uh, the um, the regulations are kind of similar but different in the little details, right? um, Needs to work. A lot of work has been done, obviously, on the background to help standardize that. And yeah, we talked about it a bit. The passporting example of Europe, right, where like it's standardized. You have a license in one country, you are able literally to use that license in every country, right? You have a passport in methodology, and again, we can adapt the same thing. For me, starting with the smallest simple step is the solution, right? Standardize region by region. Have, for instance, some of the countries in the UMR zone in West Africa have the same. Then take West Africa as one and have the same kind of regulations. Then move on towards every region have the same, and eventually, we can have a standardized regulations across the continent that would help move forward fast in terms of financial inclusion, help us like do cross-border payments easily. Because the solutions are here. It's just like scaling and scaling fast due to regulation scrutinies are like it's extreme, right? And I'm glad that you both help us nail this down, right? So yeah, um, for me now, what advice would you have for startups navigating regulatory frameworks in multiple jurisdictions? What should they do, right? Uh, New startups in this industry.
I think what I would advise for new startups is to understand the market they want to enter. Markets, just understand, partner with local agents, lawyers, agents, bankers, people that actually understand the market. Partner with them so that you can understand the regulatory framework of any market you're entering, whether it's Kenya, whether it's Ghana, wherever it is. Because of those, there are just some little differences that you need to understand before you actually embark on that journey. Don't just go in head first and say, oh yeah, I want a license here, I'm going to get a license there, because you're going to run back out if you do that. So understand thoroughly the market you're entering into before you actually enter into it.
Definitely. Great advice. Mark, do you have something on your side?
Yeah, another advice I would want to add from the compliance framework perspective is to design a flexible framework. So one thing you need to understand is a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work across Africa, like we've rightly mentioned. So instead of that, fintech should identify core compliance principles like the AML, KYC, risk management that applies across all markets, and ensure that their framework covers this. And also in some areas where customization is necessary, then you need to customize specific controls. So for example, transaction limit, verification methods based on the country requirement. So when that flexibility is already built into the compliance framework, it's going to be easy for them to scale or move into different countries and start get things started as soon as possible. Then also we can't say this enough. They need to leverage regulatory technology for scalability. So you want to implement automated compliance tool for KYC, for onboarding, for KYB process, and also for transaction monitoring, and in order to handle regulatory variations effectively, because you can't do all this manually, and scale fast is going to be cumbersome. Also, you want to have like a centralized dashboard that you can track regulatory requirements across different jurisdictions and be able to address each one as they come.
Definitely, that's a very good one. Yeah, thank you, and great advice from both of you there. The startups should start incorporating these advice in their strategies, right? Now, moving on towards risk mitigation and through compliance. We know that with the rise of fraud and financial crimes, for you guys, how can fintechs proactively protect themselves against their users for this?
Okay.
Mm.
I would say early assessing risks very early around fraud. With new innovation comes new ways of new ways of defrauding people. So in as much as we are thinking innovation on the other side, the bad guys are also innovating as well. So we need to think like the bad guys. So from the onset, as we're building and innovating our products, we should also be thinking about ways to protect ourselves from cyber attacks. So we're incorporating cybersecurity into our systems and our processes as well. Constant monitoring of our processes, audits, monitoring, investigation. Those are all key ways in which we can protect ourselves. So as fintechs, we have so much information on people. We need to protect our people from these bad guys. So data protection should be up there. It should be priority to fintech companies when it comes to preventing fraud and all of that. Because one mishap, one slip up can your information gets into the wrong hands. We're talking about cloning. We're talking about identity fraud. There's just there's so much out there that when we're thinking about fraud, we're not just thinking about, oh, this person is taking money from that. We should think about fraud in a broad way. And of course, we're also protecting ourselves from money laundering. We don't want these bad guys to legitimize money that's come from illegitimate sources. So we also have to look out for that and protect ourselves from that. So design our system in such a way that AML is such a strong thing in the system, such a strong force in the system. Let me put it that way. And of course, the counter finance, terrorism financing as well. It goes hand in hand with AML. So yeah, those are the areas I'll say we should when we're thinking about fraud prevention. Those are the areas I'll think we should focus on and innovate around to prevent fraud.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Go on, Mark.
Yeah. Additionally to all that she's mentioned, another key thing that I also want to highlight is we want to adopt a risk-based approach, obviously making it harder for the bad guys to have access to our system by creating stronger KYC and identity verification system. Like mentioned, use AI-powered ID verification tools, biometrics, authentication, and liveness detection that would make it harder for fraudsters to use fake IDs and synthetic IDs to be able to have access to the system. Then another key thing that we also want to have in mind is user education. No matter how strong our controls are, no matter how strong our systems are, no matter how strong the technology is, the customers are often the weakest link in our security. So if they are not well informed, if they are not knowledgeable about the systems, the tactics that these bad guys use, they would eventually fall to it, and all the systems, all the controls, all everything that we've built would just crumble, because that's what we are trying to prevent. So teaching users to recognize fraud, phishing scams, and social engineering attempts is just as important as having strong controls in terms of 2FA and data encryption and continuous account monitoring. So it's very important that as fintechs, we continuously inform, educate our users, let them know about the different means and tactics that this bad guy use. So once they are knowledgeable, they are aware, they won't easily fall for that. So complemented by obviously these controls that we've put in place. So with all this put together, we can rest assured that we can protect our customers from fraudsters.
Definitely. Very, very, very good. Very, very good. And we're heading towards the end of the year. But I have one last question before I let everybody else ask their questions. Okay. You touched a bit upon it. It's like, if you may, how does innovation and technology play and it play like in terms of compliance, becoming more efficient and scalable? How does the integration of these new innovations help the compliance sector move forward faster, right? Think you've touched about it. You've talked about it a little bit, but I want to hear more, and I want you guys to dive deep into it a little bit more there. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark talked about, the rise of AI, and how the use of AI in helping us, carry out all these compliance functions. Compliance functions can be very monotonous and very it's huge. Like, we're dealing with a lot of data, a lot of information, and just having there's a new wave. They're called the RegTech. So the RegTech is a pretty much is a very new area, and what they are doing is they're really helping the compliance team. We love the RegTech in this space. They're helping us simplify our day-to-day operation. So whether it is onboarding our clients and ensuring that they are properly verified, RegTech is helping us do that. Like what Mark alluded to, verifying. We have some new, guys in town. There's AI Prize, there's Video, there's a bunch of them out there that, they're doing amazing work. And then of course, AI is also, is new to at least it's new to me, everybody. So AI too is helping us, with our day-to-day, helping us navigate, the autonomous nature of the business, of the work, the compliance work. So helping us get through, get by. So yeah.
Great. Obviously. Timothy, you wanna add on there before I give my last
Yeah. Additionally, there are other emerging technology that can also help to make our day-to-day job easier. One is having decentralized identity incorporated. So basically, this helps users to be able to control their own KYC data, and as such, it reduces the responsibility of managing the data from fintechs to the user. So, and also reduces data breaches. So basically, it makes it easier for users to be able to provide their information, because one of the challenge across board that fintechs, crypto firms face is that trust deficiency between the businesses and the users. So when you ask them to provide KYC information, sometimes they are skeptical. They are asking, "Oh, is my data safe? Can I trust you with my data?" So when we have this incorporated, it reduces that trust barrier between the business and the users. Then also, going hand in hand with it is the zero knowledge proof. So which means that users can prove their identity without exposing personal data, and also it improves privacy. So this, along with the ones that Lade mentioned, can also help in growing the industry when it comes to incorporating technology.
Definitely great. We learned a lot. I think I'm better than I was an hour ago. Have a clearer understanding on some of these subjects, and I hope that most of the people that were here also learned a lot. Before I give you back the floor to give your closing remarks, let the people present ask a few questions if you guys have any, and then we let our guests give their closing thoughts. Okay. Any questions for our guest? Anyone? It can mean two things. Either you understood everything that they said, or you haven't gotten anything that they said. All right. Umius Archer, hopefully I didn't butcher your name. Go on.
Yes. Good evening. I don't know if it is good evening because in Kenya it is good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah,
Good evening.
it's a pleasure
Mhm.
to have you guys on board, and I'm happy. It has been a great learning session. And I must appreciate that two exchanges of ideas, and especially in the field of regulatory landscape,
Mhm.
we get to learn a lot. And looking at what Lade has shared, Timothy has shared, actually, it has really also opened my mind.
Definitely.
And I must commend you for organizing this kind of a call, because again, it is through this that we learn a lot. We learn a lot in the field of regulatory landscape. I must agree that the challenges posed by the technology today are really coming with a huge effect. Of course, from a criminal point of view, we take cognizance of the fact that every country has its own regulatory approach. But again, by the end of the day, we'll have to accept that we also have to align ourselves, even for the person who wants probably to go and have an investment in a different country. You have to align yourself within the regulation of that country. But you realize that, and especially maybe when you're now talking in terms of compliance, in line of maybe in the line of virtual assets, financial instruments, and so on. You also look at probably things like maybe the FATF, which of course we have all to align. We all have to align to it, so that
Definitely.
we're able to operate in a space that we are compliant.
Yep.
I know compliance has a lot, and Lade has really laid the ground, and it is good that from there maybe you're also going to put into practice a few things here and there, so that we're able to streamline our compliance department and so on. Otherwise,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Mm.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you for those remarks. Again, we need to adapt to some of the countries, but yeah, some of the standardizations are needed, at least at a high level. Again, we should adapt to every country. There's some things are specific to some countries, so we need to be able to understand that. But the high level standard of the international regulations should be standardized across all of the continent, right? So yeah, great remarks there. Additional questions? Thank you, Amuse, for your contribution there. Any additional questions for two experts? Going once, twice. All right, we'll assume that everybody have a thorough understanding of what was shared here today. Now, thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing your expertise in this domain. I'll give you back the floor to give us your closing remarks, and we'll call it a day. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Hamid. Just to bring you home together, the topic of our discussion is the role of compliance in risk mitigation and business growth. So when you think about compliance as it directly relates to mitigating risks, right? So what are the risks associated? What kind of risks are we talking about when it comes to businesses? So think about it like that, like the risk you're trying to avoid: legal risk, operational risk, reputational risk, whatever the risk is that you think is associated to your business. In this instance, a fintech is what compliance is trying to help you mitigate. So think about compliance as a tool that is going to help your business grow. Don't think about compliance as a barrier to growth. Is actually there to help your business, scale. Is there once compliance is operationalized from the very beginning, not as an afterthought. It's easier to manage that way, and hopefully it doesn't become a hurdle for you. Yeah, so that's all I'll just say.
Absolutely. Great closing remarks there. Thank you for bringing it home. Mark, you want to take us home too?
Yeah, so going back to the topic again, what role does compliance play in business growth? So oftentimes, many stakeholders view compliance as a cost center and not as an investment. But I would like us to hold this thought as we go. Compliance is not a burden; it's an opportunity. It's a business enabler. So as a fintech, as a financial institution, when you embed compliance from the start, it gives you the opportunity to gain a market advantage. It helps you to build trust with regulators and your customers. And also, it allows you to scale without any unnecessary roadblocks or bottlenecks. So compliance, the companies that do well in the fintech space are those that use smart technology-driven compliance strategies. This would enable them to turn regulatory requirements into business enablers. And as such, you would see them continue scaling and growing at the pace that they always expected because they made that smart choice of making investment in compliance.
Definitely. Great closing remarks from both of you guys. The adoption of compliance from the get-go, making you strong, giving you advantages on moving forward, right? We talked about RegTechs. Again, we have a lot of RegTechs that are using AI-driven solutions to help mitigate most of the issues that we have in regulation today. Let's adopt them, right? Let's pay for it. So let's invest in it because it is literally a strategic advantage for us, right? It makes things clearer and it basically brings the investors towards us. They know we are organized. They know we are regulated. It's easier to have a conversation with them in that way. All right. So yeah. Thank you again. It's been a great session, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
bye
you.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.